So Shane, do you want to just say anything about yourself? Like
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be. Don't feel awkward. Just say whatever you want.
Yeah. No. So yeah, my name's
June will
Shane.
edit it.
My name's Shane. I'm a consultant physician, so I practice general medicine down in
Mm,
Melbourne. And yeah, Hash and I were med school buddies from the get go. So we've known each other for a very long time. And it actually does make me feel quite old because I feel like I only met you, a
yeah.
year or two ago or
Oh
whatever it
God,
was.
no.
It's been over a decade and a bit now. So crazy.
Yep.
Um, so yeah, I went to Monash. I was an undergrad, and then I ended up doing all of my junior doctor years through the Royal Melbourne. Um,
Mm,
and yeah, I did BPT through RMH, and then I also, while I was training, did masters in internal medicine, which was interesting. We can chat about that a little bit later. And then now I predominantly just work in private practice. I work with a group of other great physicians that I met along the way, and we work in a sort of team, a consortium, as it were.
mm.
And I work pretty much 1.5 weeks a month, and then I stay busy outside doing all my other wonderful things that try to keep me entertained,
Keep you busy.
keep me busy.
Um,
Shay, what specialty are you in at the moment?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
general physician. So I do gen
General.
med.
Okay. All right.
Gen Med.
Perfect. Mm.
Did you now when you went into? I mean, you came out of high school and you went into med school. Did you always think? Did you only think, oh, I'll only just do medicine as a career? You didn't think about alternatives, or did you already have it in mind that there are other things you'd want to pursue outside of medicine?
I mean, that's a great question. I mean, I was pretty certain that I wanted to be a doctor from probably like year 9, year 10. I was pretty focused. I mean, I liked the fact that it was science based, but also it had that element of interacting with people. And you can't deny, and that's one thing I try to do in this podcast, is be as open and honest as possible
Mm.
about the thought process. But, I knew that there was a field that, was quite respected, that there would be perhaps this illusion of financial security, um, as well as, you needed to be high performing and high achieving to get in. And so that had an allure to it. So I had set myself saying, of all the little that I know of the world as a teenager, that
Mm.
being a doctor is probably a good idea. And so that's what I pursued. And I was lucky enough to have been able to accomplish that. And, I think that was a good decision. And based on the information I had at the time, I think that was also a sensible decision.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah. I suppose it's hard to think about alternative careers when you have your like heart and mind set on medicine at a young age.
Well, the only
Um,
other thing I recall about wanting to do strong in my life before then was when I was really young. I loved dinosaurs, and I thought becoming a paleontologist and becoming a
Paleontologist
dinosaur itself, if science was able to
allowed.
permit it, would be the
Yes,
option.
would have been
But
good.
I think even as a young man, I think as a teenager, I realized that being a paleontologist probably wasn't like the best career move financially
Yeah,
speaking.
Mm.
So that was quickly off the agenda. It's a medicine, was the thing.
was the
Mm.
thing. Now, I know at one point you were thinking about pursuing dermatology.
Yes.
What made you change your mind away from dermatology? And
Yeah. So
I think this is important. Go.
Mm.
yeah, absolutely. So I thought about dermatology relatively early on in my career. Like I had decided probably as an intern going into BPT1 or PGY2 that dermatology might be a career that I was interested in. But I didn't really know all too much about it. But the reason I thought that might be a good idea is because I thought that perhaps it would be a good mix of lifestyle, bit procedural, and also, well earning. And based on that, I thought, okay, let's give this a crack. I knew it was going to be tough. I knew it was going to be tricky. But I thought, it sounds like a nice mix, best of all the worlds.
Mm,
But one thing that I did, which I am very, very grateful for, is I knew that I didn't want to put my eggs in one basket. And in Victoria, in order to do dermatology, you often have to take a general year to do the dermatology rotation. And doing a general year means that you aren't going down a specific training path, as it were,
yeah.
a surgical
Mm.
year, physician year, or crit care year, whatever. And so I ended up doing it as part of BPT1, which is very difficult to do. I had to chat with the head of unit and convince them that I was wanting to be a physician dermatologist to handle cutaneous manifestations of systemic disease.
Mm.
And it allowed me to actually hedge my bets, as it were, to do the general ER and pursue dermatology. But with all my good planning, the thing that made me come unstuck was that I hated research. I just did not like it. And you needed to do research. No matter how much I enjoyed dermatology, I just never had the runs on the board from a research perspective. So I did it as a resident, and next year as a BP2, I did it as a registrar. And I applied for the derm program 2 times. The first time I got rejected. I didn't get an interview because I didn't have enough research. And the second time, I didn't change anything about my CV. And I applied again and got a similar result miraculously. And at that point, I was like,
how shocking.
Shocking,
Yeah.
yeah.
And so then I think that was it. That was the end of it. And to be honest, during my whole time, I was smashing up my physician's training. I was enjoying medicine more than I was enjoying the dermatology. So I just essentially probably like self-sabotaged and just said, I've got a backup. I'm just going to pursue that. And then I just went off the dermatology train. And that's the story of Shane Anthony as a dermatologist.
I like to highlight this because some people get so fixated. A lot of junior doctors get fixated on one particular specialty, and then they keep committing themselves to it, and then they fall into the trap of, the sunk cost fallacy. You almost need to like put checkpoints in your career because you clearly you reflected and you're like, wow, I applied twice. I didn't change my CV. Clearly, this is the only outcome that I'm going to get unless I do something different. And you're just like, no, I don't want to do the research or whatever. It's just not for me. So I think it's good to have that checkpoint to be like, okay, it's not for me. I'm going to go do something else.
Yeah.
Now, how many days a week are you practicing medicine?
At the moment, if you average out the year, it'll be about 7 days a month. I work.
Oh, okay. Actually practicing medicine. Okay.
Yeah. Well, I just did 21 days straight. I just finished yesterday.
Yeah.
So, when I do work, I work hard, I work long hours, but then I have the time off. So now I'm off for another sort of 5 weeks and then hop back in. So
And
it's good. It's a nice balance.
Okay. And it's mostly like ward-based
Yeah. So
work.
my area that I work in, I do predominantly, just ward-based, so no clinic work, just ward-based general medicine. At a few metropolitan private hospitals here in Melbourne. And then I also do a lot of perioperative work as well.
Okay.
And so it's good. It's when I'm on, it can be quite busy. Sometimes your list can get up to, 40, 50 patients. You're there till, sometimes 10 p.m. starting at 8
Yeah.
a.m. But that's not too different from what junior doctors have to do sometimes. But now you do it on consultant
boss.
point. It's not bad.
That's not bad. It's not bad. Okay. So then if you're say you're averaging out 7 days a month of actual medicine, the main point of today's episode is to talk about things that people pursue outside of medicine. And you pursue a lot of things outside of medicine. And I remember in medical school, you were already like, tinkering with things outside and thinking about careers outside of clinical work. What is the main thing right now you do outside? Like what's going to keep you busy these next 5 weeks when you're not practicing medicine?
Well, the big thing that, I'll tell you a little bit about
Tell
the
us.
things that I do, and then I'll break it up. So
go.
one of the things that I do, and maybe we're a little bit well known for, is my brother and I, we run the Smiling Second, which is we sell luxury watches, and we have a store down on Collins Street. And that's been something that I've been doing as a hobby and then as a business for the last 5-6 years. That has grown into into this amazing thing that I never thought would have prospered like it has. And it's given me a lot of sort of freedom and time to pursue other hobbies and interests. And then the other thing, which I think that is very relevant to junior doctors and things that we're discussing today, is we've started a kind of like a medical brokerage. So we do home loans and other loans for doctors, nurses, allied health. And I'm a non-broker partner in the business, but I have a fantastic team. And I think that's all around trying to provide a little bit of financial education, insight, security, and a guiding sort of path for doctors, junior and senior, to try to get them on that track for financial freedom and trying to save them from bad decisions that sometimes happen because we are so time poor, because we are so pressured, we are so hyper focused on our careers, to provide a specialty consult for
Mm.
financial literacy.
Yes, I think most registrars would agree that they go to work, they get their paycheck, they don't entirely know what to do with said paycheck.
Yeah.
Mm.
So, because I remember when you were a registrar training, you were also you'd started the watch business. What made you want to pursue, like, did you always want to be a business owner?
Yeah.
And how did you, like, did you take your paycheck and just say, look, I'm just going to focus on trying to get some capital to start this business that I want to run? Did it happen naturally? You were passionate about watches anyway.
Yeah, well, actually, I have to give credit to both yourself and then to a previous guest of this podcast, AJ.
Mm.
Um, a good friend of ours, Sahan, was getting married, and I remember both of you went to buy him a wedding gift on behalf of the boys, and you ended up
Mm.
getting him a King Seiko. And I didn't know that much about watches at the time, but I uh, I just liked it. I liked
Mm.
how you guys did the deep dive, and you found a piece that you thought was beautiful, and it had a bit of history to it, and it was precise, and it was
Mm.
manual wind with no battery power. And I just thought it was a massively incredible feat of engineering and a nice thing to be able to have on your wrist. Anyway, that started it, right? So you
That's
guys
like
sort
the
of
actual
piqued my
passion,
interest.
the interest. Yeah.
But the thing about me is, and I've learned that over time, is I'm kind of a man of extremes. Like I can't just have a light hobby. Like if I
Mm.
like something, I really, really like something. And so I ended up going on a massive deep dive into watches and things like that. And then my now wife and I were in Japan, and I was in thinking about this King Seiko thing in the back of my mind. This is like 2 or 3 years later. And I went down to the Seiko boutique in Tokyo, and I bought a boutique exclusive watch from them. It was a Seiko Cocktail Time. I'm sure listeners may have heard of it. It's a beautiful
Mm.
watch, a couple of $100 at the time. Came back
Mm.
to Australia, was looking up online. I was like, oh, I wonder what the value of this boutique exclusive piece is, given that I had to go all the way to Tokyo to buy it. Turns
Mm.
out it was a couple of $100 over what I paid used. And so then I ended up meeting someone in the park who bought it off me, and I made, $300 on a
Mm.
$350 spend. And I was like, whoa,
There's something
there's
here.
something here.
Mm.
Yeah.
There's something here. And
Yeah.
and that was where like that sort of, the switch sort of flipped in my head a bit about the business. But in terms of wanting to business itself, I never really had a strong drive. Like I didn't know that is where I would end up, but I did know that I wanted to be free. Like
Yeah.
I use the example of like finishing night shifts, right? Finishing night shifts week on, week off. I enjoyed like I love working hard. For me, like I love it. I love being in it. But when I was off, I would go to like the tennis club, and there'd be people playing tennis on a Wednesday at like midday.
Mm.
And you're like,
Mm.
surely they're not all just on a week off nights. Like,
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
are they doing? Do they work?
Yeah.
And you got to find that as you get older and stuff. But a lot of these people, their money works for them. Their businesses operate in the background, and they've literally freed themselves up to do what they want. Um,
Mm.
and ironically, probably, if I had all the free time in the world, I probably still would practice medicine because I love it and I enjoy it. And it's
Yeah.
what I'm passionate about.
Mm.
It's part of my identity of who I am. But being able to do that is probably what pushed me towards thinking about financial independence and ending up going down the business path whilst also
Mm.
practicing medicine.
I've definitely heard seniors of mine in the past um, complain about having to like work to earn every single dollar that they earn when they have colleagues who do have businesses that they step away from that are, I mean, those colleagues have already put in so many hours into creating businesses. And then once it's like automated and
Yeah.
you can trust the people that are on the ground running it, they step away.
Mm.
Whereas
Well,
a very common theme in medicine is that's not an option, even when you
100%.
start your
Well,
own practice.
the,
Yeah.
the, the fundamental sort of issue with medicine is scalability, right?
Mhm.
Because no matter what you do as a specialist physician, as you do as an interventionalist, proceduralist, you are still billing per episode, right?
Yeah.
And we have a duty of care to our patients where we have to be performing to the best of our ability. So you don't want to be just stacking the book and working twice as hard as you can, burning out, underperforming, and delivering poor results. So
Yeah.
ultimately, there's a certain amount of patients that you can see in a day. And even if you earn, you know, $2,000 an hour, whatever it may be, you know, you're at the top of your pay bracket. You can only ever earn so much, and at a cost of your own time, your own stress, your own sleep,
Mm.
and constantly being on call and being and needing to perform no matter what. And so I guess that is the limitation with medicine. But I would say, and this is important for people listening, is that medicine is incredibly financially secure. And that
Mm.
is important because you will have a job, you will have a paycheck, it will be a good paycheck, and you don't have to do anything outside of medicine. You could just practice it, enjoy it, and you should be safe and secure in your financial future. But when you're being an entrepreneur, having a solid baseline, a safety net on which to start from and to fall back on is a massive win. Because if my businesses didn't work, I would just go back to practicing full time
Yeah.
and I'd be fine. I'd be happy and I'd be well taken care of. And that's when medicine is amazing. And it's important not to discount, you
Yeah.
know, the financial benefit of being a doctor. But yeah, ultimately, if you want to get scale anything big, it's hard in medicine.
Yeah. Yeah. And the other thing that you said about this personality trait of taking things to the extreme, that is a personality trait that I think a lot of people in medicine do have. That's why
Yeah.
they do medicine, because it's like the extreme of um, almost self-sacrifice,
Yep.
putting the hours in, going to work, going home, studying, etc., etc. Taking that personality trait and then directing it towards something entrepreneurial is probably I imagine, one of the key driving parts
Yeah.
of why you do this.
Well, if you just look at, you think about it from like a baseline, like, of attributes or skill sets, I don't know, like in a computer game, right? Like what are the
Mm.
different skill sets that you have to be a successful entrepreneur versus to be a successful doctor? They would align very, very closely.
Yeah.
In fact, I think the doctors would have incredible amounts of stamina, independent thinking, resilience, but perhaps the only thing that would differ would be creativity and perhaps risk taking. Because, we don't try to take risks as doctors. We try to make very
Oh
calculated
yeah.
decisions. We want
Yeah.
clarity before we proceed. But naturally, in the business world, I mean, that's hardly ever the case. I mean, you've got to take the plunge sometimes and back yourself.
Yeah.
Um, but I think probably one thing that I would say is clarity usually comes after action. Like even in medicine, like you have a gut feeling that this is what this is, and you start a treatment for it, right? And they improve, patient improves, and then you get the clear picture that yeah, that was C. diff colitis. That wasn't just a colitis, right? PCR
Yeah.
comes back, you're like, yeah, cool, I called it.
Yeah.
That's the same in business. Like you don't really know. You're not going to get a clear business plan before you start. You just start, and then retrospectively, you're like, yeah, that was a good move. That worked out well, and then you get your clarity. So just being comfortable with the uncertainty is something that I think, I know as a general physician, I have to deal with all the time. And in business, you deal with as well. And doctors are made incredibly well for that. Like we have been honed to deal with uncertainty. And I think that
Yeah.
makes us very good in the entrepreneurial space.
The other thing that has always intrigued me about what you do is I can think of multiple people in medicine who have businesses outside of medicine, but are still often related to what they do. So I can think of seniors, I can think of eye doctors who sell like a mascara, an eye doctor who sells like an eye cream. It's still within their domain of what they know and what they're familiar with. But in your case, you're just like, I'm going to go do something that's completely out of a passion of mine, and I'm just going to pursue that the same way I've pursued medicine quite like intensely.
Yeah.
So I like that it's very different to what you do. So, okay. So how many days a week do you think it's probably hard to quantify this because like you're constantly on your phone dealing with
Mm.
things, work, business related. How many days a week do you think you spend on the Smiling Second?
Uh, 8
It's like,
days out of 7.
yeah, it's like
It's
24
it's
hours,
pretty
right?
it's pretty constant. If we're not traveling, we're on the phone, we're working, we're networking. I mean, one of the things that like made the business possible when I first started was the fact that I was a doctor, because you didn't have any trust. Like watches are a trust based thing, right? Like how do you
Yeah.
know you're not getting a fake? How do you know you're not getting taken for a ride? Well, you're dealing with a doctor. That's what I used to say. I was like,
Mm,
well, who else can you
mm,
trust?
mm.
I'm a doctor. You look me up on Opera, and we'll meet up in this McDonald's car park and we'll do the deal. Was when it first started, right? And
Yeah.
it was like, yeah,
Now you
actually,
have an actual
yeah,
place on Collins
yeah.
Street to
But
meet
like
people.
without that, I reckon it would have been a tough start,
It'd be
man. I don't
hard. Yeah,
know.
yeah, yeah. Of course.
um, but
Shane,
yeah, like
were you doing this while you're like how did you do this while you're training and studying for the exam and things? Like I'm just imagining you doing how? Like how do you do this?
This guy doesn't sleep.
Yeah. So I mean, while I was doing physician's training. I was doing my master's of
Mm,
internal medicine, and I was building this business,
mm,
and obviously working. And I just, how I did it? I did it all at once. I didn't prioritize anything. I just whatever came up, I dealt with it. I moved on to the next problem. I have to give credit to the I don't know if people have heard of the University of Sydney Masters of Internal Medicine. 100% recommend it. The reason that was so good for me
Mm,
was because it was basically a master's that was addressing the coursework requirements for physicians training. So even if
okay.
you didn't have the spare time to do the reading yourself, you now were held accountable for the basis you're paying for a master's and you have to pass the exams that
yeah.
they give you every semester.
Mm,
Um, and that was good. That sort of streamlined my workflow from a studying perspective. And that gave me the free time to sort of pursue this, pursue the business on the side. Now, it wasn't a massive business back then,
Mm,
but we're by no means a massive business now, but it's obviously a lot bigger than it was. So then I
mm,
just made time when I was off work. And then my younger brother, I have to give big credit to him. So Sean, he's the face of the business. He was a junior doctor pursuing orthopedics. Um, and unlike myself, so I fully fledged out the other end, and I still practice quite a fair bit. He does business almost entirely, so he runs the Smiley Second. Plus, he also does our mortgage business as well, and then we also do property development. And so he oversees a lot of that. And then he still maintains his registration, but he's a junior doctor, so he does supervised practice when he's
yeah.
working as a resident. And so he helped me a lot too, just sort of share the burden in the later years. But initially, it was
Yeah.
just stay busy. It's not going to be easy.
just you
Just stay busy.
grinding. Yeah.
Just grind. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. There's no easy
Mm,
answer.
Can you think of situations where you were like, I don't know, studying or something for your exam, and then you're like, oh shit, I have to go do this thing.
Yeah,
Was
mm,
that an occurrence that happened? Like you're like, oh shit, I need to go address like this thing that came up,
yeah,
or
yeah.
mm.
yeah, and
I, I
you just go do it, and then you come back. Whatever, when it's done, you come back and you restart the study or whatever.
yeah.
That's
I
pretty much.
remember flying out from like Melbourne to I think I was going to Adelaide at like 5 p.m. doing the deal, and then coming back early morning and then going to work the next day
Mm,
at
yeah,
8 a.m. start. Like that, you did that every now and then, and you sort of had to because you didn't have the logistics, you didn't have the systems in place to be able to do it efficiently. So you sort of the way you got over the hurdles of running a business is just by brute force. You just brute
mm,
forced it. You were the body on the line. You just be there. You just do it. You'd make it happen.
yeah,
But now, obviously, as a business grows, you develop systems so that you don't have to put yourself on the line as much. You just have the systems in place, in short shipping, blah, 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 that you can just get it done and you don't have to worry. But yeah, early days, it was just you see a problem, throw yourself at it, fix it, move on. Obviously, the important thing is like, medicine was my priority. Like
mm,
had
agreed.
to be present for work. I
Yeah,
had to be
Mm,
on top of what I was doing. But I think I was lucky and I was blessed that I always felt very comfortable at work and with managing workloads and things and just being on top of things. And so I did have that extra space to be able to think, a little bit outside of what I was doing at the time to try to manage a
yeah.
few other things that were happening. Mm.
People, I mean, how do you not get overwhelmed? Like,
mm.
it's like I felt comfortable. I mean, people who just do medicine at work who have, 40 patients to round on, like that can be overwhelming on top of
Yeah.
everything. How do you not feel overwhelmed?
I think for me, like I lived at home till I was 30.
Yeah,
Um,
okay.
you
Mm,
know, I didn't move out of home until I got my consultant letters. Like my
Yeah.
parents were incredibly supportive. I didn't have to worry about anything
Mm,
outside of what I chose to worry about, which is work and
yeah.
whatever things I had going on at the time. And I don't think everyone has that luxury. And I was
Yeah.
very, very privileged to have that. Sorry, privileged to have that.
Mm.
And so not having to worry about stress, food, cleaning, car maintenance, any of that stuff, it's a huge blessing. And I think that's the true reason why, I had
Yeah.
the additional bandwidth.
I appreciate the honesty. That's
Yeah,
good.
and I didn't have the rest of life stresses. And if someone said like, "Oh, would you have liked to move out earlier and stuff?" I'd say, I think I was blessed that I was supported that much, and I'm
Yeah.
glad that maybe financially I could have. And I mean, without doubt, if you're a senior registrar, of course you can move out if you wanted to. But
Right.
the point is, if you can delay all of those other worries in adult life, you can focus on things when you're younger.
Yeah, I like the honesty because you'll read about things online and you'll be like, is that like surely there's like something else like, but it's honest. Like you lived at home,
Mm.
you didn't have to worry about rent, you didn't have to worry about bills and whatever food,
Yeah,
Mm.
laundry, all the other little
like
stuff that
like
does
I
take
come
up
back from
bandwidth.
night shift.
Yeah,
Mum has already cooked a delicious meal.
yeah.
I eat it. I sleep. I didn't do
What a
laundry.
dream!
When I wake
What a
up,
dream.
I go back to work. Like, how
I
amazing.
don't, I
Imagine having to,
honestly, I don't know why there's a stigma about being at home. When you're an adult, there really shouldn't be.
Mm.
I think it's.
yeah,
I don't know. I think culturally, it's probably changing anyway.
yeah. I
I
don't know.
mean,
I
whether
think, if
yeah,
you're doing something, if you're working towards something, and your parents or whoever can see that, I think they feel more inclined to support you because
yeah,
you're not at home just, I don't know, quote unquote, bludging or whatever it were, just living off the coin and deferring responsibilities. What you're doing is prioritizing.
yeah,
And so that, I think, in a sense, is perhaps slightly different to the stereotypes that people have about people who live at home into their 30s, early 30s. Because I think
Mm.
for doctors, it's a little bit different. Like, I think it's understandable.
Mm.
yeah. Hey, you mentioned Sean's still maintaining his registration. Like, what does he have to? I imagine he probably has to do like a set
Yeah.
number of clinical
Yeah, I think it's
hours,
like
right?
6 to 8 weeks a year he needs to
Okay,
work, like,
yeah.
full time
It can be
to
spread. It's
maintain.
not consecutive. It can be like spread out.
He generally takes a block. Sean's
Yeah,
partner's also a doctor, so his partner practices. He was practicing rurally, and so he flew out and worked there for a good chunk.
does for a
Um,
bit. Yeah.
yeah, and so that's essentially it, and it
And
works out well.
why does he keep his rego? Like, is it for the same thing you were talking about, having some kind of security and,
Yeah.
why does, oh, he just loves it. Is that why he keeps the registration
Look,
or
I think,
both?
yeah, that's a good question. I think it's a little bit of both. I think, you work your whole life, well, your young adult life to become a
Mhm.
Yeah.
doctor. And then to throw it all away or to not go back to it, it would be a real shame. I think there's a element of finality of like walking away, which is that's a big
That's
sort
a,
of
yeah.
thing to swallow and a big thing to commit to. I think for him, just maintaining it means that he can go back to it. And ultimately, yes, there is the element of risk mitigation. Like if things don't go well, you can always go back to locum. I mean, he's a
Mm.
junior doctor. He'll always be supervised,
Yeah.
Mm.
and so there's always that safety net. So it's probably a bit of both.
Yeah.
So Shane, would you obviously, everything that you've done, especially with entrepreneurship as well, would you recommend this to a medical student who's just coming up, graduating, being an intern and resident? Like, what's your take? Just, should they just concentrate getting onto a training program, become a specialist, become a GP, or yeah.
I mean, there's so much dialogue about how much less and less medicine feels like security. Like there's so much
Mm.
dialogue.
Mm.
There's the current EBA negotiations. People aren't
Mm.
happy with the wage rises that are offered. People are constantly talking about training
Competition
bottlenecks
ratio, yeah,
getting worse and worse and worse. Should people in
exactly.
medicine should junior doctors or medical students be thinking, oh, I'm going to go, I'll do this to do this for, say, some secure capital.
Or even, should I have a
Actually,
backup? Should I have a backup plan?
yeah.
Would
Yeah.
that be
What
a
do you,
business or something else,
So I have this conversation with my junior doctors, when I'm rounding with them and stuff. They find out what I do, and they get interested and they ask, like, what's my opinion? And I say
Mm.
it's hard, right? Because you don't know everyone's appetite. You don't know everybody's desires and wants, but people need to know what they want themselves.
Mm.
So you have to think, like, what's important to you? Because I mean, Hashem knew me well when I was in university, right? Like I thought initially, the first day of med school, oh, I'm going to be a neurosurgeon. I'm going to be this,
Yep.
I'm going to be that, right? And you're
Yeah.
sort of like
Mm.
making a slight joke, but you are speaking out of a place of some form of, perhaps ego or something like, I just
Yeah.
want to be the best, right?
Yeah.
And
100%.
you don't think to yourself at all about, and I think Satish mentioned this on a previous podcast. You never think about like, what is life like as a consultant on the other side? What is the life that I want? All you
Mm,
think about at the time is like, what's fancy, what's nice, what the same thought process that put you into medicine to start with, perhaps. Yes, you have the altruistic thoughts of helping people, but that it's respected, it's financially secure, you know, it feeds the ego a little bit. And you use that decision making to try to pursue a specialty. But the
mm,
problem is with that rationale is that all goes away very, very quickly when you hit with the harsh realities of trying to become an ophthalmologist, trying to become a cardiologist, trying to
Mm,
become, ENT surgeon, a dermatologist. All these things, in reality, need complete dedication and almost like a fanatical level of self-belief and
mm,
pursuit of a goal at all costs. Um, and if you think to yourself, like, I am not, we have a mutual friend of ours who wants to be, who probably is going to become an orthopedic surgeon at some point. And he has this fanatical self-belief in himself. And I went to, I knew him from childhood. I knew him very, very well. He was an amazing individual, extremely talented. Um, and he's devoted his life to it. And he's still in the process of going through selection. And that's your competition,
mm,
right?
mm,
And just have to be realistic. Like, I think if you're a junior doctor and you're going into medicine, go in full of hope. Go in wanting to be the best that you can be, but be honest with yourself about what you want your life to be like when you are 35, when you are 40,
mm,
when you've got a young family. And if it is that you want to be able to work because you want to and not because you have to, and you want to be able to take time away so you can work hard, de stress, and work hard again, then you may need to consider the fact that you should perhaps have another avenue of supporting yourself financially. Whether that's a business, I think that's pretty high risk. You really got to be as fanatical about that. You got to pursue that. You got to give your 110%. But there's other ways: property, index investing, and all the
mm,
other avenues of developing
mm,
yourself to have a nice foundation so that you can, titrate your amount of work. That will give you a lot of freedom. And unfortunately, with the nature of some of these ultra competitive specialties, where yes, in the long run, you can earn quite a lot, you do not have the time, the energy, the bandwidth to be able to make those decisions that will allow you to be flexible later. So it's
mm,
hard, but I think you just
mm,
have to have a conversation with yourself about what you want. And ultimately, the
mm,
other thing is no one cares what you do, you know? No one cares. We care. In fact, we think we care. But reality, I don't get a consult from, a rheumatologist at the hospital and then go like, wow, that's incredible. He's a rheumatologist. I wish I could have gone through the rigmarole to become a rheumatologist. At the end of the day, they're another specialist that you refer to that provide a service to the patient and life goes on.
yeah.
We consult
mm,
the neurosurgeons all the time. We work with them all the time doing the peri-op. Yes, they're incredible individuals, but at no point does it change the way you interact, that you live your life, that you aren't the neurosurgeon, but you're the
Yeah.
peri-op consult, because ultimately you get to go home stress-free and enjoy your life. And they're on call. Any surgical
Yeah.
issues that arise, that's their thing to sort out. And so ultimately, I think when you weigh it all up, I think it comes out in the end that I would much rather be flexible, have less stress, and have
Mm.
time to do what I want and pursue, my hobbies and things.
Yeah, on the note of like what to tell med students or junior doctors, I remember meeting a med student earlier this year
mm.
who was pursuing, like, he was doing some coding. I don't know if you've ever heard of vibe coding, where you use
Yeah, yeah.
AI to help
AI vibe
code.
coding. Yeah.
You don't actually know how to code. You just use AI to then
Mm,
like at least start the
Yeah.
code and refine it. And they were like going through med school and using this, coding some websites and software. I think they were doing some kind of like GAMSAT training website while they were in med school. So I don't know. I feel like there's probably more and more med students and junior doctors who are thinking
mm,
outside the box.
Yeah. I mean, the
Yeah.
world is full of opportunity now, right? With the internet. Um, you can teach with e-commerce and YouTube and the rest of it. You can teach yourself anything.
Mm,
And so it does allow you to be, you don't have to be physically present in a business or whatever endeavor you take. You can sort of do things in parallel. Uh, but yeah, I mean, the core of the whole thing is ultimately you're going to have to focus a little bit on risk mitigation. Like you're not going to be a
Yeah.
junior doctor who's going to quit. Because I often get asked this as well, actually. It's like, do you
mm,
think I should quit and pursue
mm,
something? My answer is
Mm.
never, ever, ever
Don't quit.
quit to a career like medicine to pursue a
mm,
maybe. All right. Do medicine, unload yourself, choose a specialty that gives you the freedom, but also gives you security, and then grow something in parallel. That's sensible. That's
Mm.
mitigating risk, and that will get you to success. Taking massive gambles along the way just because, you can say, oh, I was a doctor, I walked away, and now, I do this, I do that. I mean,
mm,
that's crazy. The chance of success of that is extremely low, I reckon. And you're just as likely to, have to have that fanatical pursuit with the prey of an outcome as you do for a competitive surgical specialty, as if you take a path like that.
Yeah.
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 And I think the best thing is sometimes you're just going to have to accept that sometimes you're going to be busy, you're going to be working hard, you might not sleep that
Mm.
much, but you're working to something better, and keep both things happening at once. That I think is the best play.
How many hours do you sleep on average, Shane?
Now I get 8 hours,
Okay,
easy.
now it's
Yeah,
better. Okay, good.
now it's better. Yeah, yeah. Well,
Yeah.
back in the day, it was
Sure, there are times when it was
yeah, there were
five
there
to
were there were a
six.
lot of
Yeah.
very very
Uh,
yeah. Some days you wouldn't sleep 24 hours at all. You just crack on, get on to the next
God.
day. But there were few and far between. But now it's much better.
So, okay. So what are you doing mortgage wise? Why did you decide to start something else? Like
Yeah.
mm,
surely like the time that you have gets more and more scarce, but
Yeah.
clearly
Well,
you've thought of something that you want to pursue and push.
I don't know. I feel like if someone asked me like one of my big financial regrets when I was
Mm,
going through training, it's that I didn't buy a property. Um,
mm,
and I regret that for two reasons. But the first one is that you were on the sidelines, and you sort of missed the massive growth that we've seen in property over the last 8 to 10 years that we would have been trading.
mm,
And the second thing as well, I never got exposed to any of the financial instruments that could be used to generate wealth in the future. I was naive.
mm,
And it wasn't for a lack, I mean, obviously, but, you know, blowing my own horn, but it wasn't for lack of intelligence or anything like that. It was purely by a lack of exposure and time. Um, I almost caught up in a little bit of like analysis paralysis, trying to look at comparing these rates and things and instruments and offsets and policies and all of that. And I never really came to a strong consensus in my heart that I knew what I was doing. And so I sort of just let it be.
yeah.
Um, but when I got out the other side and I started, doing some property development, started doing the watches, and that started getting bigger and bigger. I was meeting a lot of people. I was meeting a lot of people. I was talking to them outside of medicine. Like that's one thing about doctors is doctors know a lot of other doctors, right? But
mm,
we may not know a lot of people outside of medicine who perhaps are equally successful or more successful in their careers. We often tend to be in our social groups some of the most wow, well done, you're a doctor sort of type of people, and that's sort of where the conversation ends. You never really get to talk about finances with other people because in medicine, I don't know, I felt like it was kind of taboo anyway. Sometimes I didn't talk to my bosses about it. But getting back on track, I was talking to a lot of these business owners outside of medicine, and a massive, massive proportion of them had a strong foundation in property
Mm,
as a driver for their wealth because they were able to put money aside when it was allocated. They weren't spending it. They were able to leverage it because obviously loan to value ratios, you leverage your investments, and they were able to access the growth of property somewhat passively over time. And they were able to leverage that into more properties. And as I realized that, man, doctors are in a position, particularly during their training years, where they've got a high salary, they've got very advantageous lending criteria and things like that from the bank. They just need to refer themselves to a specialist who can at least correlate all the evidence, all the data and everything and present them with the best option. That would be a massive plus and something I wish I had back in the day. Someone who understood me, who understood my goals, and was able to present me essentially an expert opinion and be like, this is what I would recommend doing and allow me to save and access the property market. And so I thought, now that I'm on the other side of it and I have a bit of experience managing money and managing properties and things like that, I thought I could sort of just weigh in a little bit and provide a service to junior doctors. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes. We'll see if there's a demand for it. I feel like there would be.
Yeah.
We've already
So
got
there's a
some
market.
nice uptake in it as well. And ultimately, it's it's obligation free advice. Like if you go ahead with the advice that's given, then it works out favorably for us. But if not, that's also fine too.
Yeah. It's
Okay.
funny. Thinking of my own experience when I bought my house, I remember like talking to mortgage brokers who weren't actually familiar with the favorable, as you mentioned, as you're wording they use favorable lending criteria for medical
Yeah.
medical doctors. And I was explaining to them like, why have you come with these offers that have like LMI?
Yep.
Like I've told you my occupation, I've told you my profession. I thought that I could, and then they go back to the banks and they revise everything. I'm just like,
Yeah.
I would have thought they would know this. In fact, I specifically went to a mortgage broker that marketed themselves being for doctors, and they were still off on the information that they had. And I was like advising them on, oh, actually, I was expecting this kind of mortgage.
I
So
think
it
a lot of
definitely
people.
exists, and you
Yeah,
need to
well,
be
I think a
clued
lot of
in.
people outside of medicine take being an expert in your field as some sort of like oh, it's a term we throw out there. But as doctors, if
Yeah,
we say we're an expert in an area, we better know what we're talking about because
what
we
we're talking
rely
about.
on specialty
Mm,
opinion. And
mm,
that's why
100%.
I want to bring it as like a specialty consult sort of thing, not just a random, you
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
a random brokerage.
yeah.
And the other thing as well is for doctors is junior doctors. Yes, it's a little bit complicated, but it's not that complicated. It's when you become a
Mm,
consultant, they're getting that tailored advice when your paychecks are coming drip fed, you're working at multiple sites, you're
mm,
doing locums and things like that. That's where being able to collate all of that information and present it in a succinct handover to the banks so they understand exactly what they need.
mm.
And you can explain to them the situation. That's how you get better lending criteria, better capital borrowing amounts, and that. And that's where it's, also very helpful.
Is your target like, are you hoping for also like registrars?
Yeah,
Like, is that also because
it's for everyone.
there's this weird thing where for some reason in medicine there's this idea that I don't know, you have to wait till you're a consultant before you start thinking about your finances. I don't know why.
mm,
Or you have to wait till, you don't buy a property until you're a consultant, or you don't invest into index funds into like there's this weird
Yeah,
state
yeah.
of paralysis during training years. Not really sure where that came from. Um, but I think having a service as a junior doctor run by another person who was a junior doctor yourself, is definitely worthwhile.
You know what I think it is, Hash?
What?
I think it's the assumption that you're going to be very time poor and therefore you may not be
Yeah,
able to make good financial decisions. So better to sit on your
yeah,
hands than make bad
yeah,
decisions.
yeah. That's
And I think
probably it.
that is probably obviously doesn't apply to everyone, but it is probably the thought process. Whereas, that's where having good advice, someone who knows, someone who's been in your shoes before, who
Mm,
understands what you want and where you're going, that's where it's useful. And I think it's a lot of lip service out there in the industry, but it takes a lot of work to actually be a consulted physician or a consultant
mm,
specialist in any way. And then to be able to give the advice, it's just not something you can provide lip service for. You really have to have done it.
yeah.
And that's the angle.
And I can think of some medical finance podcasts that are very popular, but again, I think a lot of them are still targeted towards a consultant level. And
mm,
things they do get complicated at a consultant level, especially with financial structures and whatnot.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
But then
so
again,
yeah,
like I always say, like sort of, I like to find like parallels in things, in life.
mm,
And I feel like with medicine, initially when you're young, right? You're a student and you're coming up, you're a junior doctor. You look for the zebras. You look for, this is an episode of Doctor House. This is going to be something crazy,
mm,
right? But
mm,
then you become like us. You're on the other end, and you realize it's hardly ever anything crazy. It's a whole heap of simple conditions all interacting together to create complexity. right? And if you just
Yeah.
step away and you piece it down, piece by piece, address each issue, you get to treat the whole, right? And it's like, wow, what an outcome. I think that's a bit like finances. You think in order to be financially free and to have, attain a certain level of financial freedom when you're older, you're going to have to make crazy, complex decisions. You're going to have to pick the random stock that's going to do 500x over the next 10 years. But it's never like that.
No.
Financial health is just like any other form of health. It's a whole heap of small, simple decisions that are done, that are made correctly with informed advice and all done simultaneously that compound each other to get the end result. That's how people do it. It's not about having the insider knowledge or anything crazy like that. It's truly that simple. And that's where just, being told that and being shown that probably gives someone, a lot of comfort knowing that, they don't need to have an MBA to start something, to do anything.
Yeah.
You don't. You've got all the skills already. You just need to get started.
Yep. Do you have anything you want to
Yeah,
say?
just Shane, just going back to the building a business. So if I want instructions, how do you prepare or start? Do you just go ahead and just start whatever you're interested in? You take that risk, leap of faith. I guess there is no manual for it, but then I guess for people who are junior than you, ask if they want to start, how do they do it?
The first step is to ask for a small loan of $1 million.
Sound advice.
Can I get some from you, Shane?
No. The honest answer is just start. Just start. Start small. Start manageable. Invest. Whatever the business is, invest a small amount of capital that you're happy to walk away from. Should it go belly up? And don't go in blind. I think, with things like ChatGPT and things, you could probably in 15 minutes get a framework roughly of what industry you're trying to enter, what's the sort of things you need to consider. But don't worry, like I was saying before, about complete clarity. Clarity will come after. Just start. And you'll learn on the job. You're extremely intelligent people. You will get the inputs. You will get the feedback from your actions, and you will be able to adapt. And that is slowly how a business grows. And then be patient. You didn't go from a day one medical student to a consultant in 2 years, right? It took you 15 years, 13 years, 12 years. Things take time. And give yourself time every day. Just keep working at it and give yourself time and be patient, and that'll do it. That's all you need. Just a bit of faith, a bit of, mitigate a little bit of risk at the start, be sensible, and be patient, and that's it. Yeah.
Awesome.
Don't quit medicine. Don't quit medicine.
Yeah.
Always have a backup.
Yeah, that's where the risk. Like my whole philosophy of everything is about risk mitigation, medicine is the perfect hedge. Pursue it, continue it, be good at it, enjoy it, find something that you like, and always keep it a part of your wealth creation journey, particularly on this side of 40. You're not going to find many better alternatives to just put your whole heart and soul into. And while that's ticking along, that's a perfect opportunity to think a bit broader about what you want to do and just give something a crack. And ultimately, you are 10 steps ahead of most entrepreneurs because you have an incredible safety net that other people couldn't really talk to. Yeah.
Anything else you want to tell us or say that we haven't asked?
Yeah, just do you have a website? Any link that you would like to put in there?
Yeah, sure. So we the business for mortgages is called It's Medical. We're a subsidiary of It's Simple Finance. So you can just Google It's Medical or It's Simple Finance, and you can go ahead and you'll get a quick form which you could fill in details if you want a bit of direction, a bit of help. And then the watches. So we're on we do the proper like social media. So we're on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. It's this at the Smiling Second. So Shane and Sean, SNS. We sell secondhand watches. They tick, and we hope they make you smile. So the Smiling Second. That's it.
Perfect. Yeah, we'll put it down on the description on all of that.
Thanks, man.
But thanks, Shane, for another incredible episode. Since about a year ago. So hopefully we'll get this done a bit more frequently. Hey, Hesh?
I like that this one's focused on things you can do outside of medicine.
Yeah, be more
But
outside of,
we never actually covered like enough specialties
I know.
before this.
Yeah,
There's so
well,
many
You
so many
guys have to bring
specialties
your
we
friends
didn't
in. I think
cover.
we need more guests, really. We need,
I know.
especially like
And more time.
anesthetists and,
Yeah, I
ICU,
You know,
pre-care, and all that.
it's funny, Hash, that you mentioned that. Yeah, we don't really talk about stuff outside of medicine because like we're so hyper focused on medicine that's where the anxiety comes from, not realizing that hey, there's a whole world out there.
Well,
If this one specific and niche decision doesn't work out, i.e., I don't want to be, I don't want to do colorectal, I want to do upper GI or whatever, like, and the world's over. Like, this is so small in the scheme of things. And the amount of skills that you have to have even put yourself in that position, that in itself should hopefully help reduce the anxiety levels and be like, all right, I'm just going to go a bit with the flow. Life's not over. And I'm going to work towards, being a little bit freer in the future so that I can kind of do what I want. And I think that's nice to know that there's a lot of options outside of medicine as well. And they don't have to be mutually exclusive, which hopefully gives people a bit of peace of mind and do a bit of both.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Thank you, Shane.
Thanks,
All right,
Shane.
guys. Thanks for having me.